Detective Sarah Rodriguez arrived 20 minutes later, her practiced eyes taking in the scene as Marcus walked her through the footage. She'd seen her share of neighborhood disputes, but this one had an edge that made her pay attention. "Play. That last part again," she said, leaning closer to Marcus's laptop screen. Karen's voice filled the quiet evening air. "Accidents happen. Pool equipment is so dangerous. Electrical problems, chemical accidents. You never know what might go wrong." Rodriguez made a note. "That's pretty specific for a vague threat. You sure you've never had any interactions with her before today?" "Just the voicemails," Marcus said, pulling up his phone. 3 of them, escalating in tone. As Rodriguez listened to Karen's increasingly unhinged messages, her expression grew. More serious, the final message, left just 2 hours before the confrontation, was particularly damning. "If you don't shut that thing off, I'll shut it off for you, permanently, Mr. Chen. I have to ask, what exactly do you do for work?" Marcus hesitated. Most people assumed he was just another tech consultant, and he rarely corrected them. But Detective Rodriguez had earned a straight answer. "Corporate security consulting. I specialize in threat assessment and risk mitigation for Fortune 500 companies." Rodriguez's eyebrows rose. "So you know how to handle people who make threats?" "I know how to document them properly." Marcus gestured to his security setup. "I also know when someone has crossed the line from harassment into actionable criminal behavior." Before Rodriguez could respond, her radio crackled to life. "A domestic disturbance, call Karen's address." They could hear the shouting from 2 houses away. "Told you to call someone who gives a damn?" Karen's voice carried across the manicured lawns. "Some immigrant tech bro is harassing me, and you're treating me like I'm the problem." Rodriguez and Marcus exchanged glances. "Want to see how this plays out?" the detective asked. They walked to the edge of Marcus's property, where they could see Karen's front yard. She was pacing her driveway, phone pressed to her ear, gesticulating wildly at Officer Thompson, a young patrol cop who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Ma'am, I need you to calm down," Thompson was saying. "If you want to file a complaint—" "I don't want to file a complaint. I want you to arrest him. He threatened me. He has illegal surveillance equipment. Ma'am, security, cameras on private property are perfectly legal, not when they're pointing at my house." Karen shrieked, though her house was clearly outside the range of Marcus's cameras. "This is harassment. This is stalking." Rodriguez stepped forward. "Officer Thompson, I've got this." The younger cop looked visibly relieved. Karen, however, lit up like a Christmas tree. Finally, someone with authority. She marched over to Rodriguez, her voice dropping to what she probably thought was a reasonable tone. "Detective, I need to report a serious incident. My neighbor has been harassing me for weeks. He's got cameras everywhere. He's making threats. And when I tried to talk to him reasonably about his noise violations, he became violent." Rodriguez nodded sympathetically. "I see. And you have evidence of this harassment." "Evidence? I don't need evidence. I'm a respected member of this community. I've lived here for 8 years." Karen's volume was climbing again. "That man moved in 6 months ago and has been nothing but trouble. Ask anyone in the neighborhood." "Actually," Rodriguez said, "I've already spoken with Mr. Chen, and I've reviewed his security footage." Karen's face went through several interesting color changes. "His footage? What about my privacy rights? You can't use that against me." "Ma'am, the footage shows you trespassing on his property, assaulting him, and making specific threats about sabotaging his pool equipment. That's not." "He's lying." Karen's composure finally shattered completely. "He probably edited the footage. These tech people, they can fake anything." Rodriguez pulled out her phone and showed Karen a still image from the security. Karen's face clearly visible as she raked her nails across Marcus's arm. "So, this is fake?" Karen stared at the image, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "I was defending myself. He grabbed me first." "The footage shows no physical contact from Mr. Chen until after you scratched him." "This is bullshit," Karen exploded. "This is a setup. He planned this whole thing. He's probably not even a real American citizen." Rodriguez's expression hardened. "Ma'am, you need to step back and calm down." "Don't tell me to calm down. I know my rights. I know people in this town. My ex-husband has connections you can't even imagine." "Your ex-husband," Rodriguez said slowly. Would that be David Whitmore? Karen's eyes lit up with triumph. Yes, finally, someone who knows who they're dealing with. Rodriguez and Officer Thompson exchanged a look that Karen completely missed. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to turn around and put your hands behind your back." "What?" Karen's voice cracked. "Why? You're under arrest for criminal trespass, assault, and making terroristic threats." The words hit Karen like a physical blow. "You can't arrest me. I'm the victim here. I called you." "Ma'am, please turn around." "No, this is insane. Call my lawyer. Call Detective Morrison. He'll straighten this out." Rodriguez paused in the middle of reaching for her handcuffs. "Detective Morrison is retired, ma'am. Has been for 3 years." The last of Karen's bravado crumbled. But, David said. "He told me I still had protection." "Your ex-husband lost his law license 2 years ago," Rodriguez said gently. "Disbarred for embezzlement and witness intimidation. I'm surprised you didn't know." Karen's face went white. "That's impossible. He's been paying my legal bills. He said he still had influence." "Ma'am, please turn around." This time, Karen complied, her body shaking as Rodriguez cuffed her. "This isn't over," she whispered. "You have no idea who you're messing with." "Actually," Rodriguez said, "I think you're the one who has no idea." As they loaded Karen into the patrol car, she was still screaming threats and demands for her lawyer. The neighbors who had gathered to watch the spectacle began to disperse. But Marcus noticed the looks they were giving him, not hostile, but curious, respectful. Even Mrs. Patterson, the elderly woman from across the street, approached as the police cars pulled away. "Mr. Chen," she said quietly, "I want to apologize. We all heard her going on about you, but none of us said anything." "That wasn't right." Marcus nodded. "Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. She's been a nightmare for years," Mrs. Patterson continued. "Always threatening people, always claiming she had connections. Most of us just learned to avoid her. What about her ex-husband? David." Mrs. Patterson's laugh was bitter. "David Whitmore was dirty as they come. Everyone knew it, but he had protection. When he finally got caught, Karen kept pretending nothing had changed. I think she actually believed it." As Mrs. Patterson walked away, Marcus felt his phone buzz. A text from his friend Jake, the investigative journalist. "Just saw the footage you sent. Holy shit, Marcus. This is bigger than you think. Can you call me?" Marcus dialed Jake's number as he walked back toward his house, the pool pump still humming its steady rhythm. "Marcus," Jake's voice was excited. "Do you know who Karen Whitmore is?" "My psychotic neighbor. She's also the woman who's been running a harassment campaign against the new city planning commissioner. Same threatening phone calls, claims about connections, intimidation tactics. The commissioner is Maria Santos, first Latina to hold the position." Marcus felt the pieces clicking into place. Let me guess, Santos has been pushing for new housing development that would change the character of neighborhoods like this. Bingo. And get this, Karen's been organizing other residents to oppose the development, calling it urban decay and lowering property values. The dog whistles are deafening. So this isn't just about a pool pump. Not even close. Marcus, you just handed us the smoking gun on a systematic harassment campaign. This footage, combined with what we've been building on Santos, could expose a whole network of people using intimidation to prevent integrated development. Marcus looked back at his quiet suburban street, seeing it with new eyes. "Jake, can you dig deeper into Karen's financial situation? I have a feeling her ex-husband's legal troubles might have left her more desperate than she's been letting on." "Already on it, Marcus. You need to be careful. If Karen was just the tip of the iceberg, there might be other people involved who won't appreciate you shining a light on their operation." As if summoned by Jake's warning, Marcus's phone rang. "Unknown number. Don't answer it," Jake said. "Let it go to voicemail." The voicemail notification popped up 2 minutes later. Marcus put it on speaker so Jake could hear, a man's voice, gravelly and threatening. "Mr. Chen, you made a serious mistake today. Karen Whitmore has friends, real friends, not the kind who abandon you when things get tough. Drop the charges, delete the footage, and we can all move on with our lives. Keep pushing, and you'll discover just how unpleasant life in your new neighborhood can become." Jake whistled low. "Marcus, you just poked a hornet's nest with a very big stick." Marcus looked at his house, his pool, his carefully maintained piece of suburban paradise. 24 hours ago, his biggest worry had been optimizing his quarterly reports. Now he was apparently at war with a racist harassment network. "Good," Marcus said, surprising himself with the steel in his voice. "I've spent my whole career dismantling corrupt systems. Time to put, though." His doorbell rang at 7 a.m. Sharp two men in expensive suits, flanked by a city inspector with a clipboard thick enough to stop bullets. "Mr. Chen, I'm Attorney Bradley Walsh, representing concerned citizens of Willowbrook Heights. This is Inspector Davies from the City Planning Department. We have reports of numerous code violations on your property." Marcus stepped onto his porch, coffee in hand, studying the three men with the calculating gaze that had served him well in corporate boardrooms. Walsh looked like old money, the kind of lawyer who'd never lost a case because he only fought battles he'd already won behind closed doors. The inspector looked uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact. "What kind of violations?" Walsh smiled, the expression predatory. "Pool installation without proper permits, electrical work done without licensed contractors, landscaping that violates setback requirements." Quite extensive, actually. Marcus had expected this. His first call the night before, after talking to Jake, had been to his contractor. Every permit was in order, every piece of work properly documented and approved. Someone was playing games. "I'd like to see the complaints." Inspector Davies shuffled his papers, nervously. Well, they were filed anonymously through our online portal, double quotes, anonymously. Marcus set down his coffee and pulled out his phone. "Let me save everyone some time." He speed-dialed a number. "Commissioner Santos. It's Marcus Chen. Yes, the pool pump situation. I have Inspector Davies here with what appeared to be fraudulent code violation reports. Ha. Yes, I'll put him." On Walsh's confident smile flickered as Davies reluctantly took the phone. "Commissioner, yes, single quotes, am, I understand. Yes, I can verify that immediately." "No, ma'am, I wasn't aware of that investigation." Davies handed the phone back, his face pale. "Mr. Chen, it appears there's been an administrative error. These complaints were filed using a false identity, and the specific violations cited match our actual inspection records from your property." "Imagine that," Marcus said dryly. Walsh stepped forward, his voice hardening. "Mr. Chen, regardless of these particular complaints, you should know that your actions yesterday have caused significant distress in this community. My client is prepared to offer a generous settlement if you're willing to drop all charges and remove your security footage from any public platforms." Your client, a concerned neighbor who wishes to remain anonymous, Marcus almost laughed. "Let me guess, this neighbor is concerned about property values, community character, maybe worried about the wrong sort of people moving into the neighborhood." The lawyer's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. "This is a peaceful community, Mr. Chen. We'd like to keep it that way." Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from Jake. "Turn on Channel 7 News now." Marcus excused himself and stepped inside, flipping on the television just as the morning news anchor was saying, "Exclusive footage obtained by this station shows what appears to be a racially motivated attack in the affluent Willowbrook Heights neighborhood." The security footage filled the screen. Karen's assault, her threats, and most damningly, her racist comments about people like you, and this used to be a good neighborhood. The audio was crystal clear. But that wasn't the bombshell. The reporter continued, "Our investigation has uncovered that this incident is part of a larger pattern of harassment, targeting minority residents in several upscale communities. Channel 7 has obtained documents showing a coordinated effort to discourage diversity through intimidation tactics." The screen filled with screenshots of text messages, emails, and financial records. Marcus recognized Jake's investigative style: comprehensive, devastating, and absolutely airtight. Among those implicated is former attorney David Whitmore, currently under federal investigation for wire fraud, and his associates, including attorney Bradley Walsh, whose firm has been linked to similar harassment campaigns in 3 other municipalities. Marcus looked through his window. Walsh was standing in his driveway, staring at his phone in horror. The reporter's voice continued, "The victim of yesterday's attack, Marcus Chen, is a corporate security consultant who specializes in exposing systematic corruption. Sources close The investigation suggests that Chen's professional expertise may have been crucial in unraveling this network. Marcus's phone rang. Jake. Holy shit, Marcus. It's bigger than even I thought. The FBI has been building a case against Walsh's firm for months. Your footage was the missing piece they needed to show the pattern. The FBI, Walsh, has been running a systematic campaign to maintain housing segregation. They use proxies like Karen to harass minorities who move into desirable neighborhoods, then offer legal and financial support to drive them out. Your case just gave federal prosecutors everything they needed. Marcus watched through his window as Walsh grabbed Inspector Davies by the arm, having what appeared to be an urgent, heated conversation. Then both men hurried toward a black sedan. Parked down the street. Jake, they're running. Let them. The FBI has been tracking Walsh for weeks. They know exactly where he's going. As if choreographed, 3 black SUVs turned onto Marcus's quiet street, red and blue lights flashing silently. Federal agents poured out, surrounding the sedan before Walsh could even start the engine. Mrs. Patterson appeared on her porch, across the street, along with several other neighbors, all watching the arrest with expressions ranging from shock to grim satisfaction. Marcus's doorbell rang again. This time it was Agent Sarah Kim from the FBI. Mr. Chen, I'm Agent Kim. I believe you've been in contact with Jake Morrison. Is Jake in trouble? On the contrary, Mr. Morrison's investigation has been invaluable to our case. We'd like to discuss how you managed to get Karen Whitmore to incriminate herself so thoroughly. Marcus invited Agent Kim inside, pouring coffee as she set up a recording device. The truth is, Agent Kim, I didn't have to get her to do anything. I just gave her enough rope. How do you mean? People like Karen, like Walsh, they've operated with impunity for so long that they've forgotten how to be careful. They assume they're untouchable, that their victims won't fight back, that no one has the resources or knowledge to challenge them. Agent Kim nodded. And you do have those resources. I've spent 15 years studying how corrupt systems work, how powerful people abuse their positions. The techniques are always the same: intimidation, false authority, isolation of victims. But these systems depend on silence and fear. Once you document everything and refuse to be intimidated, they fall apart quickly. Karen Whitmore was released. On bail this morning, Agent Kim said, she immediately violated the conditions by attempting to contact you through social media. She's back in custody. Marcus wasn't surprised. She still doesn't understand what's happening. What do you mean? Karen thought she was part of some elite insider network. She believed the promises about protection and influence. She has no idea that she was just a useful, idiot, expendable muscle for people who saw her as nothing more than a convenient racist to deploy when needed. Agent Kim reviewed her notes. Mr. Chen, you should know that this investigation is going to expose corruption at several levels of local government. Some very prominent people are going to be arrested in the coming weeks. Good, you may face retaliation attempts. Marcus looked out at his backyard, where his pool pump continued its steady hum. Agent Kim, I've been preparing for corporate warfare my entire career. A few suburban racists don't scare me. That evening, as the FBI wrapped up their evidence collection, Marcus sat on his back patio watching the sunset reflect off his pool. His phone had been ringing all day reporters' neighbors. Colleagues who'd seen the news coverage. Jake arrived with takeout and a bottle of expensive whiskey. So, Jake said, settling into a patio chair, how does it feel to single-handedly expose a federal conspiracy? I didn't do it single-handedly, and honestly, it feels like Tuesday. Jake laughed. Only you would treat bringing down a racist harassment network like routine paperwork. The techniques are the same whether you're dealing with corporate fraud or suburban bigots. Document everything. Follow the money. Let them incriminate themselves. What about Karen? Marcus considered the question. Karen was a symptom, not the disease. She genuinely believed she was entitled to terrorize anyone who didn't fit her narrow worldview. But she was also being used by people who knew exactly how to exploit her hatred. Think she'll learn anything from this? Probably not. People like Karen rarely do. But everyone else who was watching the neighbors, the other potential Karens out there, they'll think twice before trying this again. If summoned by cosmic irony, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Can we talk, KW? Marcus showed the message to Jake, who snorted with laughter. Even from jail, she can't leave you alone. Marcus deleted the message without responding. Some apologies came too late, from people who were only sorry. They got caught. His pool pump hummed peacefully in the background, its steady rhythm no longer the sound of suburban controversy, but of victory. The quiet neighbor had turned out to be anything but powerless, and Karen Whitmore had learned the hardest lesson of her privileged life. Sometimes the people you underestimate are the ones with the sharpest tay. The security camera captured at Alcrin's face, twisted with rage, as she screamed threats over a simple pool pump, her finger jabbing the air like a weapon. What started as a noise complaint spiraled into something far darker when she made one fatal mistake. She didn't know who she was really threatening. 24 hours later, the entire neighborhood would witness the most spectacular downfall they'd ever seen. And Karen would learn that sometimes the quiet neighbor next door isn't as powerless as they appear. Marcus Chen had always believed that good fences made good neighbors. Unfortunately, no fence could contain the hurricane of entitlement that was Karen Whitmore. The pool pump hummed its steady rhythm as Marcus adjusted the filter settings, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across his pristine backyard. The pump wasn't loud, barely audible over the ambient neighborhood sounds, but it was apparently enough to shatter Karen's delicate sensibilities. "Turn that goddamn thing off." The shriek came from over the 6-foot privacy fence, sharp enough to make Marcus wince. He'd been expecting this. Karen had already left 3 increasingly aggressive voicemails about his industrial noise pollution, each one more unhinged than the last. Marcus straightened, wiping his hands on a towel. At 42, he was a man who chose his battles carefully. Years of working as a corporate consultant had taught him the art of de-escalation. But as Karen's voice rose to banshee-level decibels, that patience was wearing thin. "The pump runs during regulation hours." "Karen," he called back calmly, "city ordinance allows pool maintenance between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. I don't give a shit about your ordinances." Marcus heard the rattle of his fence as she apparently kicked it. His security camera system, recently upgraded after a rash of neighborhood break-ins, captured every angle of his property, including the fence line where Karen was now making a spectacle of herself. "You inconsiderate piece of garbage," she continued. "Some of us work night shifts. Some of us need to sleep during the day." Marcus knew for a fact that Karen hadn't worked a day job in over 5 years, not since her divorce settlement had set her up in the McMansion next door. Her work consisted mainly of online shopping, wine-fueled Facebook rants, and terrorizing anyone who dared to exist in her vicinity. "I understand your concern," Marcus said, maintaining his diplomatic tone, "but the pump needs to run for water, quality and safety. I can show you the manufacturer's specifications, if fuck your specifications." The gate latch rattled, and Marcus turned to see Karen forcing her way through his side gate, the one he'd forgotten to lock after bringing in grocery bags earlier. She stormed into his backyard like an avenging angel of suburban fury, her bleached hair wild, designer athleisure, wrinkled from what appeared to be a day-long wine-bender. "Karen, you're trespassing," Marcus said, his voice hardening. "You need to leave my property immediately." "Make me," she snarled, stopping inches from his face. The smell of Chardonnay hit him like a wall. "You think you can just move in here with your fancy pool and your stuck-up attitude and disturb the peace? I've lived in this neighborhood for 8 years. 8 years. You're nothing but an outsider who doesn't belong here." The racial undertone wasn't lost on Marcus. He'd heard it before, usually couched in more polite language about property values and neighborhood character. But Karen was past the point of coded language. "I'm asking you nicely to leave," Marcus said, pulling out his phone. "Or I'm calling the police." Karen's eyes went nuclear. "Are you threatening me? Are you actually threatening me right now?" "I'm documenting a trespassing incident." She lunged for his phone, her manicured nails raking across his forearm as he pulled it. Away, the scratches burned, 3 thin lines of blood welling up on his skin. "You attacked me," Marcus said, staring at the scratches in disbelief. "You actually attacked me." "Prove it," Karen spat, but her eyes flicked nervously toward the security cameras mounted on his house. "Your word against mine, and everyone knows." What kind of neighborhood this used to be before people like you started moving in? Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. This wasn't just about a pool pump anymore. This was about something much deeper, much uglier. Karen, you have exactly 10 seconds to get off my property before I press charges for assault and trespassing. Press charges. She threw back her head and laughed, the sound sharp and manic. Do you know who my ex-husband is? Do you know what kind of connections I have in this town? I could make your life a living hell with one phone call. 10 seconds, Marcus repeated. You think your little recording is going to protect you? Karen's voice dropped to a venomous whisper. I'll tell them you grabbed me first. I'll tell them you threatened me. Who do you think they're going to believe, a respected member of this community, or some tech bro who just moved in? Marcus looked at her. The entitled rage, the casual racism, the absolute certainty that she was untouchable. It was a type he knew well from his corporate world, the kind of person who wielded their privilege like a weapon, never imagining it could be turned against them. You're right about one thing, he said quietly. This is being recorded. Karen's confidence flickered for just a moment. So what? You can't use that in court without my consent. Actually, you're on my property, single-party consent state. But that's not what I was talking about. He gestured toward his house, where the red recording lights of his security system blinked steadily. 6 cameras. Karen, all angles, audio. Everything you've said and done for the past 10 minutes is stored in cloud backup with timestamps. The color drained from her face. You can't, I can, and I will. Marcus stepped back, creating distance between them. You have a choice to make right now. You can leave quietly, and maybe we can find a way to resolve this like adults. Or you can escalate this further, and I'll make sure this footage gets seen by everyone who matters. For a moment, Karen looked genuinely uncertain, but then her face twisted back into its familiar mask of fury. You smug bastard, she hissed. You think you're so smart with your cameras and your lawyers and your fancy job, but I know people who can make problems disappear. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Karen's voice rose again. I'm going to make your life a living nightmare. I'm going to call the city, the homeowners association, the police, everyone. I'm going to find every violation, every permit you don't have, every rule you've broken. And when I'm done with you, you'll wish you'd never moved to this neighborhood. She whirled around, marching toward his gate, then turned back for one final shot. And if none of that works, she said, her smile turning cold and predatory, well, accidents happen. Pool equipment is so dangerous. Electrical problems, chemical accidents, you never know what might go wrong. The threat hung in the air like poison gas. Marcus felt his diplomatic facade finally crack. Karen, he said, his voice deadly calm, you just threatened to sabotage my property and potentially harm me on camera. With audio, she froze, realizing what she'd just said. You've made a very serious mistake, Marcus continued, and you're about to find out exactly who you're dealing with. Karen's face went white, then red, then white again. Without another word, she fled through his gate, slamming it so hard the hinges groaned. Marcus stood in his backyard for a long moment, listening to the steady hum of his pool pump and the distant sound of Karen's door slamming. Then he pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the number he needed. Detective Rodriguez. It's Marcus Chen. I need to report an assault and criminal threats. Yes, I have video evidence, all of it. As he waited for the police to arrive, Marcus uploaded the security footage to his secure server and sent copies to his attorney, his insurance company, and after a moment's consideration, his old friend Jake Morrison, who worked in investigative journalism. Karen had no idea who she was dealing with. She thought Marcus was just another suburban neighbor she could intimidate and bully into submission. She had no clue that she'd just declared war on someone who specialized in dismantling people like her for a living. The pool pump hummed on, marking time until Karen Whitmore learned the hardest lesson of her privileged life. Some quiet neighbors bite back.